quite frankly, the incentive for people under him and his organization and he himself are to be highly corrupted, easily corruptible. And I guess if you see things like this coming out of the ABA, it's probably a pretty good sign that they haven't been able to buy him. This is a tweet from Bricksuit from back in March. And what happened back then is people were super pissed off because there were a bunch of influencers that took money from Big Soda because they wanted to promote this kind of libertarian idea that once you hand money to people, they should be able to spend it on whatever they want, including sugary beverages and Cheetos. Clown World, the government wants to block soda purchases for Americans on Snap. Remember when New York City tried this and it completely backfired? Well, that was different. That was like that wasn't Snap. I think it was literally just like limiting the size of sugary beverages. Totally different thing. So automatically, alarm bells should be going off. Remember, I don't dismiss people because of cancellation, ostracization, personal opinions about themselves. I want to examine the value of their logic. And I'm not the world's smartest person, nor am I a master debater. But this is pretty glaring. It's a false equivalency right off the bat. So it's a bad argument. And this is a major account with a lot of followers. And people will look at like this and clap like seals. A lot of them will. And there's so many bad arguments that people on Twitter clap like seals for that it's really upsetting. And every time I see one, I automatically think, man, there might be something ulterior going on. President Trump proudly had a Diet Coke button in the Oval Office. Again, a false equivalency. So what? Does this mean we have to like Coke and therefore Americans on Snap should be able to buy Coke? It's totally fake. This is ridiculous government overreach. Let people decide for themselves. It's taxpayer money taken from me at the point of a gun, money that could have gone to my children, but because the government decided we have transfer payments to buy food for people, nutrition, they have decided that nutrition, government regulators or wherever this happens, have decided that nutrition includes high fructose corn syrup water with artificial colorings and flavors. And that if I want to be a good libertarian, I need to allow them to do that. And it's like, not Jerome Powell. Government overreach strikes again. Government overreach. They're hammering the same kind of things. Eric Daugherty, like, dude, what are you doing? And you could tell, like, basically what these people did was they copied and pasted potential scripts out of some industry reps. They got some website you can go to where you can go sell out and just copy and paste a script, drop it in your Twitter and get a check and that's what these people did. And I've never done that, just so you know. I mean, I don't expect you to believe me when I say it. I expect you to evaluate the things I say for logical consistency. And obviously, I'm trying to figure things out as I get new information. But again, this is like not even close. Since SNAP is a taxpayer-funded program, the government has every right to add soda to the prohibited items list. Every right. We were talking about Elon being a corporate welfare queen because he uses government contracts and uses H-1B. And even Trump said that he's a heavy user of H-1B. He said that back in the 2016 campaign. And he said, listen, what do you expect me to do? It's there, so I'm going to use it. I don't agree with it. He actually came out and said that. That's one of the things early on that I heard that I was really impressed at. Because again, somebody with bad logic would say, oh, we can't vote for him because he uses H-1Bs. Well, he can use them because it's legal and then get in and shut the program down because it's a principled, correct thing to do for the American taxpayer. If you can't like square that circle, examine yourself. I think it's very, obvious, like that's fine. 67% of America said they agreed with draining the swamp, but also in a separate poll, 67% of people also wanted to end corporate welfare. And so you can't drain the swamp without also understanding that people acknowledge that the government has been corrupted by big business. And who primarily has been corrupted? Well, I would make a case that it's the Republicans and not the Democrats. I think we all know that deep down. But I asked Grok, what percentage of Coca-Cola's revenue comes from EBT payments? What is that? Electronic. I only know the slang one, which I can't say here, but the exact percentage of Coca-Cola's revenue derived from purchases made by electronic benefits transfer, the system used to determine SNAP benefits, is not publicly disclosed. But estimates have made a common range of between 10 and 25% of US revenue. Just think about that. Coca-Cola, largest beverage company in the US, massive conglomerate. They have a lot of other products. They probably have a lot of like non-beverage products too. And this probably doesn't even count like the money they get from like McDonald's and stuff, because I'm pretty sure you can't use EBT in like McDonald's and stuff like that. And despite all those limitations, 10 to 25% is agreed upon by people that Grok is citing to be a reasonable estimate of US revenue. 10 to 25%. That is way bigger, I would presume, than Coca-Cola's actual profit margin, their actual profit margin. And so if Coca-Cola is cut off of EBT, SNAP, they'll be unprofitable. It would tank their stock. They would have to fire thousands of people. So the stakes are really high here. And when you have high stakes and you have susceptible people susceptible to emotional manipulation, brute force, consensus attacks, bad logic, brainwashing, gaslighting, then you get this. And the reason that this hurts me so deeply is that there's a polling angle here, political polling angle. We're going to read this whole thing. I haven't read the whole thing, so I'm reacting to some of it. Yeah, if there's dumb parts, I'll skip them. But The Guardian, inside the Republican network behind Big Soda's bid to pit MAGA against MAHA, whatever it is, Make America Healthy Again. A Guardian investigation finds, and let me also say, whoever this individual is, I don't know if they're conservative or not, Josh Voorhees, kudos. This is what a journalist is supposed to do. Comfort the afflicted and afflict the comfortable. And who is comfortable in America? Major corporates. American Political and Investigative Journal, former senior writer for Slate, and the former editor for the news blog, The Slatest, BA from Davidson College, John Hopkins. He's probably a lefty. And yet I don't care, because this is really good work. Inside the Republican network behind Big Soda's bid to pit MAGA against MAHA. A Guardian investigation finds the U.S. soda and snack food industries, threatened by RFK Jr.'s movement to change Americans' eating habits, have turned to a group of well-connected strategists, shadowy pollsters, and anti-woke influencers. Interesting. Isn't it weird that like the second there's a mandate for a political platform, immediately every interest with a single dollar to its name starts trying to buy influence to undermine it? Isn't that incredible? And this is why, again, I keep thinking about the fourth turning, and the pot of water that the frog is in is still increasing in temperature. And you can say, well, Trump's fixing things. And I say, okay, but the national debt is still going up. And so the water will boil. Every time somebody tries to drop a little ice cube in that pot of water, it's like this kind of thing happens. Major U.S. soft drink and snack food corporations are waging a coordinated campaign that aims to pit Donald Trump's MAGA faithful against Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s Make America Healthy Again movement. A Guardian investigation in partnership with the environmental watchdog Field Notes has found. Good for these people. Absolutely good. I would love to even have a beer and talk to them about this. They would probably not want to talk to me. Their goal is to stymie the MAHA-led effort to curb Americans' consumption of soda and ultra-processed food. To carry out the plan, the companies have turned to a partially formalized network of 4 higher pollsters, strategists, and political financiers with deep ties to the National Republican Party. So they're hiring people with connections, several of whom have taken steps that obscure their connection to the effort and to one another. Okay, so it's behind closed doors. In the process, the industry has also been aided less directly by a loose coalition of free market ideologues who have previously worked to advance Trump's deregulatory agenda. This is why I don't trust the libertarians. Because, okay, it's a great set of ideals. Obviously, it's politically unworkable. And obviously, as a party, the Libertarian Party is dying. But the ideals are always just used as like a wedge in order to make more money. Oh, don't you believe in free markets? You can't bust our monopoly. Don't you believe in free markets? You can't keep us from buying politicians. The effort features MAGA influencers hired by a firm that promotes anti-woke movies, an obscure research group Lee Zeldin was working for. Whoa. That's the EPA guy. When Donald Trump picked him to lead the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, and a media outlet backed by right-wing billionaires Leonard Leo and Charles freaking Koch. It's always the same people. It's always the same people. These are the people funding the Republican Party. And until the donors change, the Republican Party is not going to change. The ongoing influence campaign is being spearheaded by the American Beverage Association, of course, a lobbyist group, with help from the Consumer Brand Association, two prominent trade groups in the food industry. Coca-Cola, PepsiCo, and Keurig Dr. Pepper, the three largest soft drink corporations in the U.S., as well as packaged food conglomerates like General Mills, Kraft Heinz, Mondelez, and Nestle, are among those that pay dues for the right to have a say in either or both of the trade group strategies. So it's like the trade group, but it's being funded by these people, obviously. And there's probably a revolving door between the trade group and the highest levels of these corporations. All three soda makers identified the MAGA effort as significant threats to their bottom lines in their most recent annual reports. Yeah, and probably in the risk factors delivered to investors after Trump nominated Kennedy to be Secretary of U.S. Health and Human Services. Coke and Dr. Pepper went so far as to suggest such risks would be compounded if unnamed government officials were to voice health concerns about their product. That's I've said this from the beginning. RFK is going to get in, and everybody in the world is going to try to stop him. Not just big soda, big pharma, big ag, big fast food, literally everybody. Every single one of these people. And quite frankly, the incentive for people under him and his organization and he himself are to be highly corrupted, easily corruptible. And I guess if you see things like this coming out of the ABA, it's probably a pretty good sign that they haven't been able to buy him, quite frankly. And yet the Republicans will collude to try to undermine Trump's pick that was put in place purposely because it was his life work to make people healthier. It's so freaking disgusting. The company's most pressing political concerns are two related RFK Jr.-backed efforts. One, to ban schools from serving foods with petroleum-based dyes, and the other, to bar individuals receiving SNAP benefits from using the Federal Nutrition Assistance Program to purchase soft drinks. 10 to 25% of Coca-Cola's U.S. revenue. Their not so subtle message to conservative lawmakers delivered directly by lobbyists, walking around Capitol Hill, they literally just walk around. Oh, could I have a meeting with you? And they come in and they say, well, why are you doing this? And don't you know it's bad for America? And these people should be, you have libertarian, blah, blah, blah. And indirectly via both an industry front group and paid social media influencers, oppose the MAGA efforts or face MAGA backlash. Working class families and individuals across America rose up to vote for President Trump on the promise of a new era that would lift them up. And by the way, let's acknowledge for a second, this is talking about pitting MAGA against MAGA. And what they're saying is that if they can buy MAGA influencers, they can undermine the organization by taking the MAGA people and saying, no, people on EBT should be able to buy soda. And yet look at Bricksuit. He's the most MAGA guy there is, and he's calling these people out. So even their understanding of the ability to do this is flawed. And yet they will throw money at this anyway, and with complete disregard to the damage that this does for America's ability to try and clean up its problems. Unbelievable. The beverage lobby declared earlier this year in an unsigned memo, some of the first MAGA-themed nutrition efforts were gaining conservative support in places like Utah and Arkansas. Yeah, that's right. This isn't about free market capitalism. That's not conservatism anymore. It's what these people who are still leading us want it to be. Supporting the SNAP restrictions, the group continued, would betray those voters and that promise. Betraying voters. To date, the MAGA nutrition efforts have largely stalled inside the Beltway, but found far more success outside of it. Here's the problem. This is why they're upset. They've stalled inside the Beltway. They've bought the legislators and the regulators. They have successfully melted enough phones, pulled enough funding, called in enough blackmail to grind things to a halt in Washington, D.C. That wasn't the hard part. That was the easy part. But now a dozen states have already requested and received waivers from the U.S. Department of Agriculture, allowing them to restrict how SNAP benefits can be used. And oh no, that's a problem. And roughly a half dozen have passed legislations restricting food dyes in school meals. Why can't we poison the kids? The Utah State Representative Kristen Chevrier, a Republican whose SNAP and school meal bills were signed into law by her governor in March, says that it is probably because the industry's influence is concentrated in the nation's capital. Can you believe how they're writing about this? They're saying that Washington, D.C. was bought off like a unbelievable. It's easier for the big food industries to control the federal government than it is for them to control a whole bunch of different states. I mean, I just can't. I'm gonna screenshot that and tweet about it. She described herself as a MAGA mom before MAGA was a thing, said the lobbyists who approached her focused far more on their own profits than any political backlash she might face. Their priority was how much money they were going to lose if people stopped buying soda. I bet you Big Dentist is probably upset too. The lobbyists were sitting there at the table with me, and I said, do you have any idea what this sounds like? That you're more concerned about the money you're going to lose than you are about the health of the vulnerable population you're serving. That's it. That's it. It's about the money. They don't care about you. They expect to be able to run roughshod over your best interests. They want you to have a gun pointed to your head so they can take your tax money and give it to people who will buy their product, even though it objectively is a luxury good that makes their lives worse. Maybe it tastes better, but it makes their lives worse. Communications obtained via public records request confirmed that industry lobbyists attempted to use the MAGAverse MAGA messaging in their effort to derail the nutrition bill at the state level. And they have done so with veteran GOP strategists serving as middle operatives, creating the appearance of distance between the companies and their preferred narrative. They used Republican hired guns. In late February, for instance, as two MAGA bills were moving through the Arizona legislature, soda lobbyist Michael Gardner reached out to lawmakers to make his client's case against the SNAP legislation, which was ultimately vetoed by the governor. It worked. They paid this guy off, he used his connections, and he got the bill killed. And Big Soda, he had a win and probably saved hundreds of millions of dollars a year from that state in recurring revenue. He closed by directing the elected officials' attention to the then recent article headlined, Trump voters want SNAP users to be able to sign to buy soda. So they literally did a poll and put this story out. They paid pollsters to get the result they want and put this story out. So disgusting. The underlying source for that claim was a poll paid for by the American Beverage Association itself. So Coke probably has some people on the ABA, I would assume, probably one of the biggest funders of it. The ABA really wants the soda industry to do well. It knows that likely, probably 15 to 20% is a good guess of Coke's US revenue comes from taxpayers because it's a big freaking corporate welfare queen. And it doesn't want to get cut off. And it knows it's done a good job buying Washington, D.C. That's so easy. Anybody could do it. So easy. You don't even have to write big checks. Probably like a couple $100,000 is my guess. across multiple lawmakers. Oh, you don't want us to move our factory. You're going to lose jobs in your district. That's also probably the kind of thing they use. But the states are a problem. The states are a problem. And so they go to Republicans and buy a fake poll from fake pollsters. And let me tell you, they paid a lot, probably millions. So they paid fake pollsters millions of dollars. I can't even sell my polls for thousands of dollars. And they bring it to Republican governors who are trying to sign a Republican bill and say, no, Republicans don't support this. Look at this fake poll. These people should be arrested. There has to be something illegal here. This is so non-democratic. This is as bad, in my opinion, as just selecting Kamala Harris without a primary process. The firm hired to conduct the survey, Public Opinion Strategies, is owned by Glenn Bolger, who previously worked for the National Republican Congressional Committee, the NRCC. Those are the same people that figure out who gets backed in races across the country and how that money gets spent to get Republicans to win. The NRCC people totally fine being hired guns to kill a bill that's better for America and for taxpayers in order to suit their corporate paylords, come from the organization that figures out partially who wins and loses in the legislature. This is like burn it down levels of corrupt. And I think that that's the new politics. Burn it down in Minecraft. The GOP's main campaign arm. The American Beverage Association paid Bolger's firm nearly $2 million in 2023, $2 million. The most recent year for which the trade group's tax filings are publicly available. The ABA paid a Republican pollster $2 million. I don't think we've made $2 million in revenue in like 4 or 5 years. Bolger and his firm are also part of a larger formal network of political shops run by Phil Cox, who was once a top executive at Americans for Prosperity. All of these organizations that support the Republican Party, traditional conservative organizations, are all free market think tanks shilling for freaking big business corporate welfare queens. That's what's happening. Quote it. Unbelievable. And by the way, if you're mad too, please like the video. Let's get some more people in here. Please like it, share it, subscribe if you haven't. Let's get some engagement because I don't know, I feel like I'm on a roll. Americans for Prosperity. And how many of those people like rotated into other conservative think tanks? The Koch family's primary dark money group and who is currently on the board of the Senate Leadership Fund. Oh, and WinRed. So not only the NRCC is involved in this, but the Senate Leadership Fund is connected as well. And the main fundraising arm of the Republican Party, WinRed, who just like Act Blue, probably launders money. Cox's network, GP3 Partners, includes more than a dozen other firms and boasts online of its proven ability to play with lethal precision at scale. Completing this particular lobbying spin cycle from industry-funded poll to news coverage the industry lobbyists could use to pressure lawmakers was the outlet in which the article about the survey appeared. The Center Square, despite claiming to be a provider of high-quality state house and statewide news, it's been identified by journalism experts at Columbia University as a purveyor of pink slime, meaning partisan talking points presented as objective journalists. Now, I don't like Columbia University, but they're probably correct about this. The Center Square is run by the Franklin News Foundation, a conservative nonprofit that has received substantial funding from donor trust Leonard Leo's primary dark money vehicle that is part of the state policy network. So big business Republicans funding astroturfed news articles to pump out fake polls that were paid a premium in order to lie. Now, why do I say that these polls are lying? Well, obviously, there's a reason to suspect that they're not accurate because the group that needs the answer got the answer at once. But we're in the field with the question about whether you should be able to buy this stuff with EBT. And I looked at one night of data, and I can tell you that Republicans aren't fully against it. Like, you know, it has worked a little bit, but they were 10 points against it. I think it was like 49 against to 44. But you know 40 in favor, not 44. But you know who was also bigger against it was the independents. It was underwater like 20 points. Democrats were like, yeah, sure. Yeah, sure. Let everybody on EBT go ahead and buy that soda, which is wild. I mean, both parties are the party of big business is what it ultimately comes down to. They just have to pay more to get the Republicans to play ball. I'm sorry if that was too cynical, but it's how I'm feeling right now. They're higher priced. As Gardner was working to derail Arizona's SNAP bill on behalf of the soda makers, a second industry lobbyist, the Consumer Brands Association's Aaron Radin, was waging a similar, albeit more convoluted effort in opposition to the state's school meal bill. Oh, man. Like, I don't want to get into the school meal bill. Let's skip ahead to, oh, man, Sarah Huckabee Sanders is in here. The Trump administration at times pushes back on the idea that MAGA's nutrition agenda is an affront to its base. Correct. It's not. Earlier this year, after the Arkansas governor, Sarah Huckabee Sanders, applied for one of the SNAP waivers, the American Beverage Association labeled Sanders and the head of the USDA, Brooke Rollins, as the food police. They're using everything. They use like beta ostracism tactics, like hall monitor tactics. Anything in their bag of tricks, they will do. They will spend whatever money it takes because the amount of money at stake is massive. Corporate welfare queens. Rollins replied, "It's disappointing that the ABA's leadership dragged its entire membership and the patriotic American workers and their families they employ and represent into direct conflict with the administration's priorities for American health." Yeah, I agree 100%. MAGA paid influencers and industry lobbyists, were making their case to lawmakers directly. An industry-funded front group, Americans for Food and Beverage Choice, was running a small dollar Facebook ad campaign featuring the industry's SNAP-related polling in at least 9 states, according to the Meta Ad Library database. The nonprofit bills itself as a grassroots organization, but according to 2023 tax filings, the most recent available, each of the 4 individuals who served as either a director of officer of the organization that year was also employed at the ABA. So it's tied to the ABA. Meanwhile, a group of MAGA-aligned influencers were taking the same pro-soda message nationwide by posting client-approved talking points on Elon Musk's X, all while not disclosing they were being paid to do so. "We cannot allow Make America Healthy Again messaging to be used to force needy Americans into not buying certain things," tweeted conservative influencer Eric Dougherty. Now, I think he came out and apologized. I think he was one of the first ones too. But it's like you took a check, dude. Adding, President Trump literally has a Diet Coke button on his Oval Office. In his Oval Office. The paid influencer campaign was first documented by Nick Sorter, a conservative journalist and podcaster, who obtained internal documents from the social media marketing agency behind the effort. Influenceable. That's the name of the organization. It's just so gross. Influenceable is run by Cameron and Liam Rafizada, brothers who have made a name for themselves by trafficking anti-LGBTQ memes and pro-Trump talking points online. So this isn't even like lefties. It's literally something that the right is doing to itself, helping themselves make money. I mean, besides the political stuff, this whole world of online paid influencers is getting really crazy. Like, I just don't, the amount of people just slugging it out, not using logic, using talking points and ostracism techniques. I don't like it at all. While Influenceable's website does not list any specific political campaigns it has worked on, IRS filing shows that it was paid $110,000 by the Center for Renewing America, a Christian nationalist organization founded by Russell Vaught. Yeah, I don't think Russell's involved in this big soda stuff. Whatever. That's the end of the article. It doesn't have anything else. Unbelievably gross. I don't understand how a representative democracy can work this way, because the entire theme of this article is that you are not being represented. And you know why I say that? Because I didn't hear one single argument in any of those influencer posts, in any of the story, anywhere that makes a case for why people on EBT should be able to buy soda. Oh, they should do what they want. Why? It's taxpayer money. Like, what is the case? The only possible case that I could see is that we need to save the jobs at Coca-Cola that would be fired by taking these people off SNAP. To which I say, fine, wean it off. Give them a period of 12 months. I don't know what to tell you. There's no reason that people on SNAP should be buying luxury products with taxpayer money that should go to my kids because I earned it. It's not right. Nobody talked about like the actual principles here. They all used conflated arguments, and we all know this.